Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever or whenever you happen to be listening to this. Thank you for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja based event and wedding photographer, Tavishima Ayede. At the last episode, we looked into the matter of whether we should apply pressure in sales or any kind of influence. And I hope I was able to convince you guys that the answer is a resounding no. Because if you try to use pressure or influence in sales, then you might run into the situation where you sell something that is unsuitable, undesirable, not needed, and then we end up with buyer's remorse or buyer's regret. These are situations where the buyer is upset at themselves or at us for getting them, for the way things have turned out. Now, these can lead to poor online reviews, poor bad word of mouth in the connection economy, and so it's not a good idea because we would have made some money today, but we would have screwed up the chances for future business in terms of repeat purchases and referrals. So now, let's get to the meat of the question. If you're not going to apply pressure in sales or any form of influence, then how are you supposed to sell? You can convince people, and I say that paradoxically, you can convince people to sell by to buy. Not by trying to apply pressure or looking at your own motivations, but you have to rely on the existing buyer motivations. You have to try and find out what is already there in their minds and in their hearts, what it is that they want, what they desire, what they need. And when you find that, that is what you're going to use to get them to buy your products or your services. So you have to use the reasons that the bride and the groom already have to get them to buy your product or service. Now, you do that by using a qualifications process. The whole idea behind the qualifications process or framework, for those of you who are new to the podcast, old listeners are already familiar with me with these ideas because I keep going on about them ad nauseum. And the reason why I do that is because they are very important for the novice salesman or salesperson, let's just put it that way. Because when you open up your eyes to the science or the philosophy behind this way of thinking, it really expands your borders and enhances your ability to make money, not just with the current client that you have right now, but in the future in terms of repeat business and referrals and what have you. So the whole idea behind the qualifications process, there are a series of questions that you've come up with to make sure that you're speaking to the right prospects or the right prospective customer, to be sure that the person that you're talking to right now already has a need for your product or your service. Sorry. We also want to be sure that the bride or the groom that we're speaking to has the ability to make a decision, because I have run into that situation, and I'm sure that you have, that you spend all this time talking to the bride or the groom, and you guys get along like a house on fire, and you find out that at the end of the day, the actual decision rests with mommy or father-in-law or whoever, and you pretty much just wasted your time because the buck stops at someone else's table and not the bride or the groom. You also need a qualifications process to find out the sense of urgency in the situation. So are they keen on making a decision anytime soon? How keen are they? What time frames are we looking at? And then you also need to ask questions to be sure that you guys are in sync when it comes to budget and money expectations. Now, when you ask questions on all these things, that is what is going to help you find out what the existing buyer motivations are. And the more of these things that you tick, the easier it is that it's going to help you to close the deal, so you can get that deposit to be the wedding photographer or the wedding planner for this couple. So that is the So that's the whole idea. So the next couple of episodes is going to be devoted to looking at these different qualifications frameworks. For those of you who are old listeners to the podcast, forgive me for going over this because, like I said, I've been doing this ad nauseum, but it's really, really important and cannot be overemphasized, cannot be over stressed, because it's something that has been mind blowing for me, and is also going to be mind blowing for the newbies who haven't been exposed to this idea before. So we're well over 100 episodes now, and it would be nice for me to review, or rather regurgitate some of these ideas again on the podcast, so that the newbies who are signing on will will be exposed to these ideas, because they're really, really, really important. So I'll just leave it here for now, and then in the next couple of episodes, we'll look into this whole idea of how you can sell without trying to use any pressure on your part, but by just trying to find out what existing buyer motivations are there. Is this the right person that I'm talking to? Do I have what they need, what they want, what they like? Does this person have the ability to make a decision? Is there any sense of urgency in this situation? And are we in sync when it comes to money and budgetary expectations? So in the next couple of episodes, we're going to look into different qualification frameworks, and we'll see how we can use that to improve our sales processes, and by extension to improve our businesses, for those of us who are wedding industry professionals. And then, of course, the discipline or the practice of sales is universal. So for those of you who are listening in on the podcast who are involved in other things, maybe you're an architect, or you are a lawyer, or you are in medical, or maybe even if you work in Zenith Bank, these principles still apply. So if you're the architect, then of course these principles apply, because you're going to use these things to try and look for business. You're going to need these principles during your client consultation meetings, during your presentations, and things of that nature. And if you happen to be, let's say you work in Zenith Bank, or you work in the ministry, all these things still come in handy, because whenever you have specific initiatives in the department that you're trying to push through, then these principles will come in handy. So let me leave it here for now, and we'll pick it up at the next recording. So thank you very much for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja-based event and wedding photographer Tavishima Ayede. Thank you for your time and attention. And I'll catch you guys at the next episode, and do my best to keep delivering value to you guys.